Hey everyone, welcome to Wealth Codes for the ChangeMakers. I'm so excited for today. We're gonna get started just right away and just drop in together and do a little bit of an opening practice. So if you'd like to just gently close your eyes, and we'll do something called creating a healing vortex. And we're pretty much doing this to create our container today, to create a safe bubble for us to play in. But before that, we're going to utilize the breath and utilize the body, and using the breath to kind of create more balance in the body, and to kind of open up the mind, calm the mind down, calm the body, and just move any energies that are ready to move right now. So we're gonna purse the lips together, and you can look at me right now if you need to. Um, and then we're gonna breathe in through our mouth like we're sipping through a straw. So it kind of looks like this. Okay, so we'll do that together. We're gonna breathe in through the mouth. Hold at the top for three, two, one. Breathing out. Holding at the bottom for three, two, one. Continuing with that same rhythm, that same breath. We'll do it a few more times together. Breathing in. Hold. Breathing out. Hold. Breathing in. Hold. Breathing out. And hold. Now starting to breathe in and out through the mouth or the nose, whatever feels most comfortable for you, coming back to your normal rhythm. And we'll stay here in this really comfy, comfortable place with the eyes closed as we create our energetic, spiritual, physical, etheric container today. So, the first thing we'll do here together is we will call upon anyone that you believe would benefit from infinite healing energy to be with us today. And we do this because everything that we do always creates some type of ripple effect. It always benefits somebody out in the world. So it's kind of like we're calling them into this container to receive the ripple effect first. So you can call them in by mentally or out loud, just saying their name. Next, we'll call upon anyone that we would like to kind of facilitate this healing. Any benevolent beings, angels, ancestors, anyone that you might be working with, intentions, symbols, you can call them in by mentally or out loud saying their name. And next, we'll call ourselves into the circle. to fully receive what's here for us today. And we'll make the intention here that at the end of our workshop today, anything and anyone that we invited into our circle must disengage and go back to wherever they reside. We'll continue to stay here with our eyes closed to call in the elements, and we do this to give reverence to the forces of nature, everything that is kind of created from everything around us. Everything around us has the element of fire, water, earth, and air in some type of way. So we already called upon the element of air. So we'll call upon the element of fire here. This element of fire will start to manifest starting from the bottom of your feet, moving all the way up to the top of your head. This fire is here to help us burn through anything within our energetic body, anything within our physical body that needs to be released, transformed, alchemized. We allow the fire to help transform it all for us. Next, we call upon the element of water to help us surrender and flow with the rhythms of life, where life is trying to bring us. We think the water is this archetype of being a giver of life, archetype of the intuition, the subconscious, spirituality, all that water represents, all that water helps us do every day, and the memories that water holds. We thank the waters for her great, great blessings. This element of water will start to manifest starting from the top of your head, moving all the way down to the bottom of your feet in its own way, in its own time. And lastly, we call upon the element of earth to help us stay present today, to help ground us into the core of the earth, to help us just stabilize into this moment and receive the nourishment from the earth. This earth will manifest as deep, heavy, dense soil that wraps around us like a blanket. We're kind of in this soil cocoon, and this will manifest starting from the top of your head, moving all the way down to the bottom of your feet. And maybe from the bottom of your feet, you grow roots, and those roots connect to the center of the earth, allowing it all to manifest in its own way, in its own time. Slowly starting to come back and deepening the breath. Whenever you're ready, no rush at all, in your own time, you can start to flutter the eyes open and just gently look around the room before you come back to your computer, noticing what's around you, what grounds you, knowing that this is a safe space, and slowly coming back, meeting the gaze of another person. Awesome. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. I prepared a little bit of a cool. I prepared a little bit of a little slideshow presentation for us just to kind of help us stay on track. And I love this workshop so much. I pretty much referenced a few things here. There were two teachers of mine that taught similar things within a very short amount of time after I got this message to create this, which is so cool. So it's kind of like we were all kind of creating this together alongside each other, and they both had their own offerings. Um, but now I'm able to kind of hear where their perspectives were, and then also most of this comes from the Akashic records. So me going in and being open to receive about this topic and then getting a lot of this information. So this was the first time that I created an offering like this. And I'm really liking how like kind of the creation process was for this. So I definitely want to continue creating in this way. It was really, really fun. So this is our brief. Pretty much when I was working in a creative agency, we would always start with like the brief, like what are we trying to solve here? And the question we're trying to solve here is how might an understanding of reality wake us up to our limitless potential? But before we get there, I want to start in the past, and the past meaning my own journey. So we'll begin here, just sharing a little bit about my journey, and I'll give you the fast version. But in 2021, I moved cross country with my partner and our dog to begin my spiritual initiation in a sense. And I didn't really know it at the time, but I'm so, so grateful for this journey, even though it's been really, really hard for 5 years of my life. And we pretty much put all of our stuff in storage in New Jersey. We moved out, we drove cross country, and we lived on a farm for 4 months. And we got clear directions to do that. We didn't just kind of do it because we felt like it. We did this like huge card reading. And looking back, I think our souls really set this up in this way in order to help us learn how to live off the land, to see how nature reflects true abundance, and to help us learn how to live off the land and start to attune to what working with the land is and what working with the spirits of the land means. So eventually from there we moved to Portland for 8 months, and then we lived in San Diego for about 2 years. And there me and my partner joined a mystery school meaning just like a underground spiritual school that helps you deepen your learning of the spiritual arts. And eventually we moved out of San Diego because our place was hit with like a huge black mold issue. And we ended up moving back to New Jersey, where I am now, where this whole journey began. So it's kind of like we went down this spiral and went all the way back up. So it's funny because, like, I think during these 5 years, there were a lot of financial ups and downs. There were a lot of unknowns that we were navigating. And we were kind of always taken care of and blessed throughout the process, even though it was very, very difficult. For example, when I was living in San Diego, we got to a point where we were kind of like on the verge of like no money, had to like move out of our place because we couldn't pay rent, we couldn't live there anymore. And a few days before doing that, actually, is when I found black mold all over our place. So because of that, it's funny that this happens, but because of that, our landlord ended up giving us a few months of rent back. So, sometimes we don't know how we're going to be blessed Sometimes we have 2 minutes before our bills are due, and the divine just comes through for us when we really need it. Because I think this happens because prosperity for me is like not having an abundance or an excess of money or resources. It's about having exactly what you need when you need it. So, for the past 5 years, I've been really deepening and diving into these various modalities of herbalism, breath work, body based modalities, divination, energy work, shamanism, more ritual, ceremonial arts. I love sound healing and hermeticism and land stewarding. So there's a lot there, and it all blends together to create, House of Horus, which is kind of why we're here to kind of commune with this etheric temple. So this is all also to help me as a steward of this temple to learn how to work with the unseen and the seen realms, and to learn how we're interconnected within this beautiful woven tapestry of the fabric of life. So, through these ancient teachings, there is a big responsibility to me, but then also to you, who I pass these teachings down to really honor them with reverence. And we do this by making sure that anything that we learn, anything that we share as teachers is from personal experience, and also to kind of know that keeping these practices alive is important and sharing them is important, but doing it respectfully to those who can really mindfully adopt them as living beings, and not to give them to people or not treat them like we're just going to extract and alter the teachings for our own personal gain. So the now. So it's been a kind of difficult journey, as you can tell, to kind of get to this point. I feel like this is, in a sense, a graduation for me because it's been a 5 year journey of really reprogramming my belief system around wealth and the idea that we need to do things to be secure and also to prove ourselves and, that we're deserving to belong. And knowing that, like, we don't have to prove ourselves, we belong. Belonging is our birthright, but I feel like in the US, we feel like we always need to earn our keep. I feel like lately I've been feeling like my fingers in a socket, to be honest. Just feel so much, psychically, emotionally, collectively, all of the above. Um, and I feel like I'm seeing the ways that my entire life is kind of crumbling, and a new life is trying to take form in the distance. My life and my relationships are totally changing, and it's been a really difficult week, coming up to this beautiful offering. But it's like I'm calling upon this frequency of this future version of myself that really believes in themselves, sovereignty, true surrender. And now I'm seeing kind of like all of these different people and situations are coming up in my life, and I'm just like, bro, why are all these people attacking me lately? And I think it's why knowing astrology is important sometimes. Like, for example, Venus just got out of retrograde, which means that, Venus represents love and the things that we enjoy. So when it's in retrograde, there's less of that energy. So we have less love and less things that we um, enjoy or things that make us feel good around us. So if I understand that, then I'm okay with um, kind of like understanding that like my Venus is in the planet or in the sign of Libra, which is all about balance. So things aren't feeling very balanced in terms of love and things that I enjoy, and miscommunications are also happening with people because it's in my house of communication. So it's kind of tough, but I'm kind of like surrendering to it all, and we're kind of getting out of that energy, which I'm so grateful for. But the message I'm getting throughout all of this is just protecting my peace, and I'm sharing this because this work is really powerful and can transform your life, and with that, it may totally crumble the life that you thought you deserved. Because we are limitless beings, and once you start to embody that, other people will try to remind you over and over again that you're wrong or you're delusional, and it's not your responsibility to explain it to them. Just keep following and observing what the divine is trying to show you. So the why, like why are we doing this? So this class, teaches us of the reciprocal relationship we hold with all life. It holds space for all of us who may be traveling through a dark place in our lives. And this is a compassionate space that we're building where we hold solidarity for each other by acknowledging the shadows of privilege and domination and fear that shape our society. And for me, this class is to, teach us how to imagine and dream again, because I believe that's our birthright. We've become these kind of participants in someone else's imagination, one shaped by power, control, and white supremacy. But something to kind of ponder is like, what would it look like if like dreaming was like an everyday practice? If we created as a collective or a hive, and we came to this shared vision we could all hold and work towards in order to maybe change the world or make the world a different or a better place. um, Here in this class, we also learn how to take action. One of the most important things my clients learn from whenever we work together is that there are times for receiving and times for doing, meaning we all love to learn about spirituality and receive beautiful energy and wisdom from our teachers, but we have to move that energy into doing and applying what we've been taught. I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. They just want to consume more and more information, but they don't really want to do anything with it, whether that's conscious or subconscious. But the more that you explore and implement the practices that are shared that have been passed down to you, the more reverence and respect you give to them and your teachers. So really the way that we respect these lineages is by keeping them alive within us, and just kind of how I was sharing before, like, once you feel comfortable with the practices, you can share them with other people. um, but we're not here to judge anyone, track your progress, give you a certificate, you do you always. This is just a reminder that like what we receive isn't just to make our minds feel good, to massage our egos, but it should be brought and integrated into our hearts and into our will so that it acts as fuel for us moving forward. So what is like our reality? What is the playground that we're in? We're going to talk about the masculine and feminine energy in society and what's happening right now with like wealth redistribution. So right now in the world, we see that the patriarchy or the masculine paradigm is very strong. It has been gradually growing into the beast that it is now for about like, let's say 5,000 years or so. And in many traditions, masculine energy is described as the forward force, the initiator, maybe the seed. So we begin this kind of phase or cycle of creation with the masculine energy, which in the elemental um, view relates to fire and air. um, but a lot of times, what we see in society is that the feminine isn't really hasn't really been honored. We can see that in the media. We can see that just in the way that like the feminine body is taken advantage of and manipulated and just commodified, I guess is the best word. But the feminine is so important to our world. I would say, yeah, I'm just gonna continue. I'm not gonna say it's better than the masculine, but I just feel like it's so important. It's the intuitive, it's the life giver, it's the mother, it's the soul, it's the manifestation. When both of these forces come together, what is created is a balanced and, evergreen container or creation. And, I think if the feminine was honored, we would see more care and appreciate the world for all of the beautiful life that's around us. But we could see that buildings, products, food, and our infrastructure in a way has been created that in a way that like doesn't really benefit us and all life across time and space. The feminine like really makes us feel connected to what makes us feel human, our emotions, our past. It helps us pause and reflect and think about the ripple effect of our actions. But the masculine doesn't really think about cycles. It's all about like moving forward and not looking back, which has its pros and cons. It can create and destroy things very quickly. But it can at times be selfish in how it creates. Many times it only creates for the now and not really thinking about the future or all of life and the cycles of life. So, wealth redistribution, the market and astrology becoming limitless. So, this isn't like an exact science, but this is just something that kind of came to me. But we can see kind of like the cycles of time, the cycles of creation, the cycles of moving through the four elements of water, fire, earth, and air. Through looking at astrology, there are 12 zodiac signs. Each one is in a different element. And we can kind of look at wealth and the cycles of wealth through the stock market in a sense. That is kind of like money's astrology in a sense, but it's a little different. It's not like a perfect science. We can't really always predict the stock market, and at times it's manipulated by those in power. And as you see right now, there's a lot of movement in the financial world. Talks of tariffs being put on resources we're trading, and the stock market is moving, up and down so much every day, and inflation is on the rise. And inflation we can kind of equate that to like maybe when a planet's in retrograde or something. I don't know. I'm trying to make these kind of parallels, but overall, we're seeing that energy is being redistributed and moved around so much. And with the rise of social media, our creative energy is seen as wealth, but it's being harvested in a sense, and our mind and our consciousnesses are being trained and really imprinted on every single day. And we're just trying to fend for our lives. We're kind of in the wild west here. We're trying to find solid footing. We're trying to regulate our nervous system. We're trying to laugh and watch funny videos sometimes. We're just trying to survive. And in a sense, like our reality has been set up to show us that we are limited. Every time I look at my phone, subconsciously, I'm kind of saying, like, oh, my reality right now isn't enough. I need to look at my phone and receive something that isn't already within me. Or, when I think about time, I'm like, oh, I'm rushing. But rushing kind of means like, oh, I don't have enough time. And all of these kind of limits that we give ourselves, um, it reflects like what life teaches us in a sense, that we're kind of in this maze or this hamster wheel sometimes. But the moment that we realize that we've had the key all along that's within us, we can find our unique way out of these limits. And we see this as um, this kind of same loop that's been happening, the same loop that happened during the pandemic in a sense, a lot of people getting hit pretty hard financially right now, but others are also making really big gains through starting their own businesses or collaborating with others. So, once we find our divine flow with like wealth, start to ask yourself, how do I want to redistribute this energy to create, maybe initiatives or opportunities or offerings for people, or your community, who believe, um, in making the world that you want to see. Because in terms of, energy dynamics, when we hold on to energy for too long, it becomes stagnant. When we kind of allow it to flow back into the web of life, so it doesn't, in this example, turn to greed if we're talking about money. But just like food, if we keep it too long, it gets rotten. So make sure you're not only open to receiving, but open to giving as well, and continuing to honor the cycle of life here. The last thing I'll share here is, sometimes maybe life is pushing us exactly where we need to go as a collective. I've been thinking about that in terms of like not rejecting what's happening in the world, but seeing that maybe it's actually bringing us exactly where we need to go. For example, like with the job market being down and our resources being redistributed, maybe that is trying to show us, like, as a collective, that, like, okay, maybe I don't rely on the government so much for food, and maybe I start to come together with people around me and make sure that our basic needs are met. Maybe I am the job, maybe I don't have to outsource the job. Maybe I am the job. Maybe I go and make my own business, or I try to figure out a way that, creates wealth for myself. But how do we do this? So it's important to also know that, reprogramming limiting beliefs related to prosperity or just in general, is, yes, partially in the mind, but it's in the body also. And knowing that the body and the mind are connected. Sometimes we hear, the saying of body, mind, and soul in the wellness industry. And we think about those three things kind of separately, but they're also, in a sense, all connected all together at all times. They all affect each other. You can go into the physical realm to, alter the soul or the energetic unseen body, but you can also go into the unseen to affect the physical body. It's all a mirror, as above, so below, which is kind of like a hermetic law. So once you start to reprogram these beliefs in the mind, it's going to, maybe, at least for me, this is what happened, bring up all of these really potent gems, maybe past memories or recurring thoughts. But all of those are signals to what's alive and what needs to be tended to. So it's important to write these things down, because you might not have these signals always, and you might forget them. So really make sure you write them down and spend time with them. Maybe make offerings to them. Sometimes, like when certain thoughts are coming up over and over again, I'll take some cedar or palo santo and I'll just burn some, and I'll just be like, okay, this is an offering for that limiting belief of whatever it is. And just like give an offering to it because it wants to be noticed, it wants to be seen. Maybe meditate with it and explore where this came from. Is this something that is ancient? Is this something that's new? And how did this, keep me safe? And then we want to also go into the body to work on integrating them. And we can do this by working with different modalities like breath work or qigong, kundalini yoga, ulu, which I'll explain a little bit later, or any other, body-based modalities that you really love. And I say body based because we want to make sure that like we're moving the body, we're releasing any stagnant energies, any energies that aren't moving, that we're holding. And this is a practice. So imagine yourself as a garden that you tend to multiple times a day, just to kind of help keep those energies flowing. I think this topic is very difficult to talk about, to be honest. Like, there's a lot of polarity in what it means to manifest something. Sometimes we think in the manifestation world that we can just have things because we say so, but we also have to account for divine timing and destiny. Sometimes what we're calling in for ourselves is destined for us, but the timing isn't something, we can control. When we try to fight or control time, like how I mentioned earlier, we're in a sense sending a signal of scarcity out, telling ourselves that we're restricted and that we don't have enough time or we don't have enough of something. But remember throughout this process that we're limitless beings, we're multidimensional beings. We are a soul and a body. And yes, the body is what limits us, but energetically, soul wise, we are, limitless. We are existing across time and space. And it's really important to kind of remember that when these different restrictions come up or other people's ideas of like, oh, you're just being delusional or like that can't happen. And it can happen because we have that creator energy, we have that ability to create a reality. So, what we can do to going back to time is like actually become slower when we're feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't have time, like all these things are coming up. Just slow down and just stop, you know and sometimes, like when I stop, I realize that I am bending time in a sense. And it's important to stay here that, like, you know, when you're operating from a balanced state aligned with spirit, the things that, come to you intuitively that, some people might say is delusional will always be in line with your higher good. And you don't have to question or control these things. The breadcrumbs most of the time will be easy to follow and to feel. You'll feel like you're not forcing anything or you're not trying to make something happen. When we're really still and we're really, our vessel, our channel is really clear, we're really regulated, our senses start to open up, and we'll talk about that next. But it's the most important thing, I would say, throughout this whole entire class is to know that like only you and the divine will know the path that is being bestowed upon you. Again, people will throw their assumptions and projections your way around, how you're living. But the way that we learn and evolve is totally unique, and no one will ever understand until we tell our story, our perspective of how we see things, of how the divine is teaching us about the cosmic principles and the principles of creation that we're all flowing through. We're born and then we die, this kind of like cycle. Um, and it's important to hold your vision through all of this, and um, take responsibility for following through. For you're getting these messages, it's for a reason. Really hold that vision and follow through with it, and also have gratitude for everything you have, big or small. Just like write it over and over again. What are you grateful for? Pray out loud. But it's important to create some type of action. You can stay in your mind and pray and thank all of these things, which is great. But also, I think writing them down and speaking them out loud also creates a little bit more power, because as you can tell, talking takes a lot more energy than just sitting there and thinking. And you know the plants and the animals around you, the land that you're on, the land stewards, your neighbors, the indigenous people that lived on the land before you, your bank account, anything and everything, everything that's part of life, just really giving so much reverence and gratitude because those things are nourishing you. They're giving you resources. They're acting as signals sometimes on where to go. So making sure that you also tend to those relationships and look at those things like living beings and know that, any living being, let's say a baby, needs to be held, it needs to be nourished, any plant needs to be watered. So all of these things in your life also need that attention too. They also need those offerings. So the senses. So within this work, the farther you move down this path, the more your senses will start to attune to your reality from a seen and unseen level. You'll start to notice that uh, what does your intuition feel like in your body, what maybe certain symbols start to mean to you, 1111, or maybe this butterfly or this bee represents an ancestor. Maybe you had this dream and now every time you see this thing that you saw in your dream that reminds you of this. Pretty much here you're building your own language. A teacher once told me, her name is Penny Kelly. She calls this the language of energy. And it's this kind of idea that, like, the life we're living isn't just, fueled by our own will. We're not just, oh, it's just me by myself. I'm the center of the universe. There is this orchestra of seen, your friends, your family, your community, and unseen beings, your angels, your ancestors, your guides, whatever you believe in, and they're here to make sure that you can be in a soul. You can be a soul in a body right now, and you can tangibly see that through, all of the cells and the bacteria that live in your body, your organs, everything's coming together, so that you can be a soul in a body. It has its own intelligence, and you have your own destiny. These cells have their own destiny, and this is how kind of like life teaches us of initiation and teaches us, um, that our path is important, that we have something to do here, because indigenously we would be initiated through life, by our neighborhood shaman or medicine person, but now we don't necessarily have those community initiations. So life initiates us through, our experiences, and the people around us act as mirrors. And this all helps us find, a deeper relationship with our body, our soul, our senses, our destiny, where we're going. And as a reminder here as well, for people here now or in the future, being, spiritual or psychic isn't about dissociating or leaving or being outside of the body. It's actually coming deeper into the body, into your senses, into your intuition, your instincts, your emotions. All of those things are how you receive intuitive guidance. And if you're going somewhere outside of yourself to receive these things, maybe, I don't know, maybe you're not receiving the right things. I don't know. Just my opinion. But I think, like, when the intuition comes from within you, comes from within your body, because let's just say, like, for example, like in terms of divination, when I give people readings, what I'm reading for another person is also within myself. I can't read um what's within another person if it's not within me as well. So I don't know, just like food for thought, that like everything around you is a mirror. Everything around you is connected. So then we get to healing ancestrally, because there is a law, a cosmic law in Hermeticism that says, like, everything first begins in the mental realm, and that's also true in the cycle of creation. And the way that I see it, in terms of the elements, the element of air is related to the mind, the mental realm. So once we kind of come in and get this idea, from the mental realm, from the element of air, then it ends up going through the rest of the cycles of creation. It goes into water and fire and earth, and I won't talk about what those represent here today. But all of this to say is like the story, the idea, our creation first starts in the mind. Um, but like I said before, the mind and the body are connected. So here we're talking about the ancestral stories that have been passed down to us through our DNA, or maybe just through living with our ancestors and copying their patterns. One thing you want to, start to understand here um, is your own ancestral stories around money. Um, what are those things asking you to look at? Maybe you can look at what your grandmother or great grandfather's relationship with money was. Um, or, maybe you can't go that far back. So you can just look at your own self and start to ask yourself whether it's money or a different belief, like really ask yourself, like, where did that come from? And in terms of money, we'll ask maybe what kind of people have the most money? Do I believe money is good or bad? Can I have too much of it? um Even like what are the energetics of money, like does it come in slowly and leave quickly? What memories come up around money in my life? Can you see any maybe parallels with how you view or treat money and those around you? Do others also treat money in a similar way that you do? Because many times these limiting beliefs come from not only our ancestry but society in general. And something I learned through working with the land, as being a farmer and volunteering, is that nothing is going to actually evolve until you know its past. Meaning, we have to know our past in order to move into the future. We must get to know the land and its story if we want to evolve it, meaning who owned the land before you, what are the stories of the indigenous people of this land, etc. So, in this example, get to know your ancestry, analyze where these triggers or these blocks are coming from so that you can, move forward. There are different things that we can heal that just kind of like one day we wake up and they just kind of like disappear and you're like, oh, that thing doesn't trigger me anymore. But then there are certain things that really are asking us to get to their root and really look at and integrate in order for us to move forward. Something really beautiful that you can do if you would like some guidance here on what to do next is maybe you write a letter to, certain ancestors, or all of your ancestors, letting them know that you noticed their story, and this story and how it parallels to this limiting belief or this belief that runs through your ancestral line. But letting them know, like, this story, this belief, it has to end here. This is not mine. This isn't something that I want to carry anymore. And then maybe you burn that letter or you make any offerings you feel called to make to them. And you start to see, maybe your reality starts to shift. So we're almost at the end. I know this is so much information, but these are the codes that I received, and I feel like they're really juicy. I feel like, from the reactions in the room, it seems like people are like really vibing with this. So thank you for being here and your feedback. But I think, you know, let's talk about being a creator. It's what all of us are, whether we're, artistic, creative or not. Like, you're still a creator. Your soul always creates. You're creating your reality. um but I think, at least for me, what I've learned about being a creator is it's all about having like some type of reciprocal relationship with the things that like give you energy. Let's say like whatever you give your energy or your money to, in a sense, consciously or subconsciously, you're saying that those are the things that you want to grow. So when you give your energy away, or your money, make sure that what you're receiving in return is also like real and beneficial to how your soul wants to grow. um, let's give the example of like giving your energy away to watch a few hours of Netflix so you can just like chill and numb out. But let's ask, like, how is this really benefiting your life? Well, it was a long day. I just want to relax. And, no shame there at all. But notice is this pattern that you can partially replace with something else. Maybe figure out how you can actually microdose Netflix and find something else that will, pour energy back into you if you're doing this because you feel depleted at the end of the day. Also, what is Netflix actually doing with your energy? Are they making more content that's in alignment with you or not? How, what and why you balance something you're giving your energy to is your decision. It's not up to me to tell you that you should or shouldn't give your energy to. But I think it's important to understand here that like what we're giving our energy to, we're saying that we want that thing to grow, we want that thing to become a legacy, maybe it becomes a multi-billion-dollar company, and noticing like is it pouring its energy back into the web of life and creating something beautiful with the ripples that it's making throughout the collective, or is it holding on to energy and how we were saying before, it holding on to energy, greed, stagnation, that food turns rotten, that energy isn't moving. But now that we understand a little bit about, energetic exchanges in the physical realm, aka what we can see with our eyes and consciously choose, in a sense, we move into energetic exchange in the unseen realm, the spiritual realm, the energetic realm. And what we may subconsciously be choosing when we give our subconscious or spiritual energy to something. In terms of energetic exchange in the unseen, many times other people's energies enter our field from the front of our body, and specifically in the solar plexus, like a few inches above the belly button. The solar plexus, I like to see it as like our gas tank, our fire. We can imagine like the sun there, and it's where our personal power lies. So, if you're a sensitive person like me, you can actually feel this part of your body clenching when you're around certain people or situations that are taking your energy. Sometimes we have this idea of like energetic cords connecting me to another person, and that person taking energy from me, or me taking energy from them. But I think like for me, I really feel it in my body. And I also notice like when I'm not in my truth, when I'm not acting out of like my own integrity, like I'm also giving my energy to an outside source, because I'm letting like that outside source dim my light and have power over me. um yeah, it's kind of like by not being truthful to myself, I'm still kind of like leaking energy. um a tip here that I'll share actually is like, if you work with crystals, black tourmaline and black obsidian are actually really good stones to have. And a lot of times we wear stones around our neck or our wrist or something. But I would say specifically, like for this center, it's important to have the crystal right above where that center is. So if you can find like a chain that goes all the way down to kind of where your solar plexus is, to kind of like really protect that area, especially if you do like a lot of spiritual work, or you live in a densely populated area, or if you live with people that you feel like take your energy. Um, Also, many times our animals act as like a crystal in a way. They can also pull energy from us, and they can also like transmute outside energies for us, as well as like our protectors. So it's important to do this work for them as well. Let's see. I think also, as a creator, notice what, like creating, what feels juicy for you when you're creating, what drains your energy or what replenishes your energy, and when, for example, I am, more of a morning person. So like my most potent energy is in the morning. So I really protect this energy like pretty aggressively, because I know that this is the energy I like to play with. Because once it's about like, 3 p.m., I don't really feel as inspired. I feel like I'm starting to, just slow down, chill. Maybe I'm like on my phone or something. I'm eating lunch. But some people are, more creative at night. So see, like when you also want to create, because something that can really help with this, really honoring your creative energy, is building an altar. Maybe this altar is for your business, or maybe it's just for your creations. Um, but this altar is like a gateway. It's like a portal in a sense. It's a physical reminder that you can look at, that you can interact with, that you can pray to, and be with, and kind of like I always say hi to it every morning. I see it as kind of a living being, like, hey crystals, hey water, hey fire. This altar is how we like really honor the seen and unseen energies working with us. As we kind of mentioned before, like it's not just you. There are, physical beings here, your friends, family, your community. There are unseen beings, the spiritual team that's around you, the crystals, the things that you put on your altar, being as intentional as you can when you build that altar. Because like these are the things that you're birthing through you, they are kind of like living beings, kind of how I was saying before. And we want to make sure that like anything that we are creating as well, like who we're passing them down to, who we're sharing them with, like we're trusting that like they are going to be the next stewards or parents of our creations, because again, like I think that though our creations are alive. So by sharing this beautiful creation with you, this class, it's like I'm trusting you to now take this knowledge, take this wisdom, and bring it forward, and share it, as like a steward and a parent of this class in a sense. I think something else that I'll mention here, we're kind of like getting towards the end, is like this cosmic law that we need to remember, that I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, and it's the law of the four elements. So for anything to be birthed into this physical realm, those things must go through the elements of air, fire, water, and earth. And sometimes we want to think about like, what am I actually manifesting? Is it, because the ego, or is it because I have some kind of karma? Um, in a sense, it's all divine, and doing things the right or wrong way. We always learn in a sense, like it's in the grand scheme of things, like it's fine, but it's always nice to ask, is this mine to do in this life, or do I pour this idea of the iPhone, the idea of whatever it may be, back into the web of life, and let someone else do it that maybe for them it's a little bit easier for them to do. This is why I love like divination, because I feel like divination is really good because it allows us to ask questions in a safe container and get answers for, the highest good of all. Is this really meant for me to do? Is it meant for someone else to do? Um, so some good questions to ask yourself when you're creating or manifesting something is like, why am I doing this? What is motivating me? And what is the purpose or the final outcome I'm looking for? And something I learned is that like sometimes like when we create something, we also have to give away a certain amount of energy in order to give it back. So when you're creating something, let's say a class, and then you post it online and you're like, why didn't anyone come? Well, maybe this class, and what you received through creating this class was like maybe mostly for you. Maybe this class wants to get a little bit more intimate with you first, or maybe the amount of energy you're calling into your life isn't the same amount of energy you're pouring out. But then, I already hear people in the audience or in here kind of saying like, well, why do I need to work hard to make something happen? And that's true. I mean, sometimes like, what you see as quote unquote hard is just working hard over a short period of time, or you can look at it like working at your own pace over a long period of time. So whether you're working uh, from 0 to 100 in a short period of time or 0 to 100 in a long period of time, you're still pouring a certain amount of energy needed in order to have like, a deep relationship to what you're creating or just to create in the way that that creation wants you to create. So a lot of info. Let's like take a breath. I'm gonna have some water. So we just went through a lot, like I called this a masterclass because like I'm just gonna be throwing the codes at you and knowing that like all these different light bulb moments are gonna come up. And we'll have some time at the end to talk a little bit more about what came up for you and really deepen into anything that you'd like here. But I want to talk a little bit about next steps and kind of like closing the container before we get there. So some resources that I'd love to share are just like some books that you can pick up and read, and some light work. A teacher of mine doesn't say homework, she says light work, so I'm putting that here. So some reading for you all. The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton is a really great book. It talks about how the idea of belief and believing in yourself can create miracles. And also The Mountain is You uh, by Brianna Weist. Maybe that's how you pronounce it, which talks a lot about self-sabotage and how we are our um, worst critics. We have our inner saboteur kind of like in our heads, telling us like, oh, why do you believe that, or you're being delusional, or you're not being realistic enough. And it's like, again, like really look at like, who told me that? Like in my life, who told me that? Was it my parents? Was it society? And knowing that like I don't have to take on those programs. Like I can like leave those at the bus stop and like continue going forward. Some great resources here. Recently, I did something called Mythosomatic Qigong with Eve. I believe her last name is Bradford, and it was very very transformative. And I think she and Keone, which is the second link here, Ulu Mu Hawaiian Artistry, they both, which I love so much, and it's so important to come and offer a spiritual modality or spiritual transmission, or spiritual practice through the lens of like decolonizing the mind, decolonizing the body, and really understanding like the grand scheme of it all, and understanding the kind of what I mentioned earlier about like solidarity for the collective, because we're all receiving all of these different imprints from society, and how all of these different imprints from society are actually being held in our body. So these modalities help us release and reprogram these different things that live in our body. Ulu, I feel like I can't really explain. It's kind of a set of movements. If you've done Kundalini yoga, it's kind of similar in a way, but it's totally different, because it's within the lens of like the Hawaiian culture, and it's a very, very ancient practice, and I love it so much. It's also free, which I feel like it shouldn't be free in my sense. But you know, Keone wants to offer this in a way, because like that is his service, um his like offering to the world that he wants to leave the world with. And yeah, I would say do it. And if you have the funds to donate, definitely donate, because I think it's just like such a powerful practice. Both of these practices are two practices that like in 2025, I know that I'm going to be continuing to do them like throughout the year. Sorry. So some light work. Here I have some journal prompts for you guys. You know, I'll share the slides and everything, so you can look at these later. But yeah, see if any of these trigger something within you. If you want to write about any of these, you know, no pressure here, just here if you want to. I found them really helpful for myself. The next part of this is, you know, going back to like time, and fighting against time. I feel like something that really helped me with my relationship with time is like sometimes I would go and walk my dog, and I would like be in a rush and be like, oh, I gotta do this. Like, I just want to walk you and like continue like going on with my day. And in that sense, I was kind of telling myself, like, oh, I don't have time. I have too much stuff to do. So to reprogram that kind of like internal mechanism of like always going really fast throughout our day is like sit, meditate in nature for an hour, not walking around, eyes open or closed, whatever the nearest park is, nothing fancy, giving honor and reverence to the nearest land structure around you, building a relationship with it, not having your phone. And the intention here is to just like really slow down to like the pace of nature, just like stop everything. I'm also going to share a meditation called the Reclamation Meditation, and it includes grounding practices, energetic cord removal, you know, opening up a healing vortex or a container, just how we did today, moving through the elements, like a lot of really great practices, all my favorite practices that I do every single day. And this is a meditation like that I listen to every day. So it's not like something that I like made and I'm just like, oh, you know, have fun, guys. It's like, no, I listen to this like almost every single day and have a very deep relationship with this practice and all of these modalities. Something else you can do if you like to journal is like write a story of, you know, the life that you're calling in, and be as descriptive as possible. Get into the habit of like a dreaming practice, and not saying like, oh, you're writing your life and all of these things are going to happen, but like start to imagine more, you know, like life really takes that away from us when we're young kids. So it's important to really also protect the imagination of kids if you have kids within your circle. um, Something else, if you feel like that's something that you don't want to do, start to write down or play with like affirmations of beliefs you're trying to reprogram. An example here is, I have unlimited energy to make my dreams come true. Maybe you want to record that over and over again as a voice note and listen to it. Maybe you want to write it down over and over again. And then also experiment with like different pronouns using I, using you have unlimited energy to make your dreams come true. He, she, they have unlimited energy to make their dreams come true. And see how that feels, you know, when I'm saying it, it's me saying it. When it's you saying, when it's the pronoun of you, it's like, oh, someone outside of me is saying it. And if it's he, it's like someone outside of me is saying it as well, but maybe it's like more, feels more direct. And see like what that feels like for you. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Our transmission is complete here. Um, And the way that I would love to end this beautiful container before we go into questions and shares is I would love to just maybe I'll give a little bit of like backstory. In January, one of my teachers had this class where he attuned us and shared his relationship with a spiritual being called the White Dragon of Prosperity. So this dragon is here to help us clear or energize anything that we're trying to manifest, anything that we're trying to create, any blocks that we have related to manifesting or creating something. So I would love to share this transmission with you. And I'm not attuning you to this frequency, but we're kind of calling upon the spiritual being to be here with us, to help us take everything that we learned and help integrate it into our body, pouring anything that didn't resonate with us back into the web of life, and just using this little frequency and transmission to help us on the path moving forward. So we'll take a moment to just get comfortable, move the body if you'd like, shake out anything that's living here in the body that got, you know, maybe lit up with anything that I shared. And whenever you're ready, gently closing the eyes, taking a deep inhale through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth, and one more time, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. We'll make the intention here that anything that we call upon to clear or energize is for the highest and best for all those who are related to those things, who would benefit or be affected by those things, and for the liberation of all beings. So we'll take a moment to send our awareness to our belly center. Wherever our belly is, just send our gaze, focus on the feeling of the belly, just focusing on whatever sense is strongest here when you tune into your belly. And then we'll move that awareness from our belly into the center of the earth below us, as deep as we can go into the center of the earth. And we'll just say connect to the center of the earth, knowing that it can be just as easy as that. And we'll begin our transmission by calling upon the white dragon of prosperity to help us clear anything within our path that is related to limiting beliefs in terms of creation, of manifesting, of prosperity, any beliefs, any blocks, anything that needs to go, that's highest and best to go at this moment. We call upon you to help clear those things for and with us. Next, we call upon the white dragon of prosperity to help us energize anything that needs to be energized to help us better manifest prosperity in our life, to help us remove any beliefs or blocks in our way, to help us just have more power to create the life that we deserve and that we'd like to live. We do this with reverence and gratitude for all those that will be affected and who will receive this beautiful energy that we receive in the form of money or prosperity or whatever it is that we are trying to manifest. We thank them for their great, great blessings. We'll take a moment here to receive this frequency. Slowly coming back, we give thanks and reverence to the White Dragon of Prosperity for your beautiful blessings and your support on our path towards becoming and embodying our highest self. You can gently but firmly start to come back to your physical body, moving the fingers and the toes, coming completely back. And when you feel comfortable, slowly opening the eyes and snapping your fingers. Beautiful. Well, thank you all so much for joining today. I'm gonna stop the recording and then we'll take some questions here in the chat. But thank you all so much for joining. I'm sending so much love to all of you, those that are watching the recording, those that are here. It's Easter today, so thank you so much for taking the time to be here on Easter. What a beautiful Easter offering to help us just create more life and create more beauty in the world. What a great symbol and metaphor for us all. So go out into the world, go create something beautiful. I'm so proud of you all because I'm sure so much has happened for you to be able to be here in this way together. So thank you so much. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.